Hey everyone, this is KennedyHawk from the MCM team. I am here today and we are going to talk about Captain Marvel in our Hero Primer series, almost finishing out the core set, one more hero to go this week. So let's get underway before I fiddle fart around for too long and talk all about Captain Marvel, aka Carol Danvers. So Carol has two identity cards just like most heroes do. In her alter ego form, she has 4 recover with the ability Commander. Choose a player, that player draws a card. This is basically a printed Avengers Mansion, which is really strong. Everybody wants an Avengers Mansion in play, and you get it in play in alter ego form. Because of this, you're going to be flipping to alter ego form a lot to pass that card around or give it to yourself, as some Captain Marvel players tend to do. In her hero form, she has 2 thwart, really good, 2 attack, pretty good, and 1 defense, kind of bad. So that's her stat line. She has the Avengers and Soldier traits. Rechannel, action, spend a energy resource and heal 1 damage from Captain Marvel. And heal 1 damage from Captain Marvel. That is left of the arrow, so you have to do that to get what's right of the arrow. Draw 1 card. Basically, this helps you cycle your deck and find your best cards faster. So why would she want to do that? Because she is all about card draw. That is her main hook. She draws cards wherever you wouldn't expect to draw them, and she continues to draw them, and they usually are cards that either synergize really well with her kit or provide a ton of energy resources. So that's kind of her shtick. She's got this little aerial trick that she can do. It's getting better as we get more and more aerial cards, but it's still not her main thing yet, although I think it could be if we get a little bit more aerial support. So key cards, we have Carol Danvers, obviously Avengers Mansion, printed on your alter ego. I don't need to berate that enough, but it is a really good ability. We have Photonic Blast, deal 5 damage to an enemy. If you paid for this card using an energy resource, draw a card. That's going to help you cycle your deck, find the right answers faster, and just burn, draw. Alpha Flight Station, again, deck cycling. Exhaust Alpha Flight Station and discard 1 card from your hand to draw 1 card. Draw 2 cards if you're in Alter Ego form. So if you started in Hero form with 5 cards in hand and you flip to Alter Ego, draw 1 with Commander, and then use Alpha Flight Station, you've seen 8 cards in your deck. Now next turn you draw up to 6, draw a 7th, and then see 2 more, so you've now seen 17 cards in your deck over 2 turns. That's basically half your deck, so that's really good. Energy absorption is 3 energy resources on a resource card, and Spider-Woman, Confuse. Confuse is really strong, especially for a character that wants to flip a lot, so it's kind of key and critical to her kit. Vanilla cards, we've got Energy Channel. I'm not super big on Energy Channel. I do think it's a fun card. Max 1 per player, you can basically spend any number of energy resources to put counters on it, and then as an attack, you can discard Energy Channel to deal 2 damage to an enemy for each counter that was there to a maximum of 10. So a maximum of 5 counters. Basically, you can spend 5 resources plus this card itself to deal 10 damage, which isn't great in the damage to resource ratio, but it's not horrible. And there's something to be said about having a place where you can dump those extra energy resources. So it's still kind of like a middling, medium style card for me. And then we have her trap cards. And I say this because these are cards that probably are a little bit more situational. Cosmic Flight is a 2-cost upgrade. Captain Marvel gains the aerial trait. Probably really good with some of the cards that came out in Nova's pack. Hero Interrupt. When Captain Marvel would take damage, discard Cosmic Flight to prevent 3 of that damage. Both of these effects are pretty reasonable and good on their own. They're just not synergistic or super great with what Carol wants to be doing, so they don't help her a ton. What they do help her with is these other 2 cards that I would consider more trappish cards. So Captain Marvel's Helmet. Captain Marvel's Helmet gives her +1 defense or +2 if she has the aerial trait. So that might be okay in solo where you kind of want to balance out your hero stats so you can handle whatever threats are coming out. But in multiplayer, generally, you're not trying to shore up your weakest stat. You're trying to strengthen your greatest stat. Which makes this card fall a little bit behind. You don't want to be bringing up your weak stat to a medium level because you're not helping the team as much. So you have this, situational card that requires another situational card in play, which is probably a good sign to say this card combo isn't that great. We also have Crisis Interdiction, so it's a thwart event, and this should be really good because Carol wants to flip so much, but without Aerial, this is just remove 2 threat from a scheme. 2 cost to remove 2 threat from a scheme is really bad. That's a bad ratio. You should not play this card unless you are triggering the second sentence. It says then, if you have the aerial trait, remove 2 threat from a different scheme. So again, requires 2 schemes in play. You can set up scenarios where this is going to happen quite often, but a lot of times I find I end up spending this card as an energy resource instead of as a card itself. All right, so what are her weaknesses? She has a lack of quality thwart and a desire to flip. Low defense and poor mitigation cards, expensive mitigation cards. So she's kind of weak, she's kind of fragile, and she's not really great at controlling and thwarting the board. She does have Spider-Woman, that's very strong, but that's 1 card out of 40 cards in your deck. That's not going to solve everything. Her strengths is she has super fast deck cycling, so if you're looking to run a combo deck, no one is going to find that combo faster than Captain Marvel. She has big money, and she can run really, really well in rush and tempo style decks. So what aspects, or what different aspect cards work well with her? So someone suggested that I put the hero pack name that these cards come in, so I tried to put some of them in there last minute. I'll get that better in the next video. But for aggression, I think you can lean into that aerial trait and use something like Dive Bomb, especially if you're going to use it with Honed Technique. So Dive Bomb is a deal 7 damage to an enemy, deal 1 to each other enemy if you have the aerial trait, and Honed Technique is a when you play an aggression attack event, if you paid using a mental resource, increase it by its printed cost. So if you have Honed Technique down and then you play Dive Bomb, you end up doing 11 to one character, probably the villain, and then 5 to everything else, which AoEs the board really, really well. I think it can work even really well with Pitchback, which is after your hero attacks, deal 4 damage to an enemy. Again, you need the aerial trait. If you do that with a mental resource with Hone Technique, you can basic attack for 2 and then Pitchback for 5, which is really, really strong. You're not getting more energy resources into your deck and you're needing mentals, so it's a little bit at odds with what she wants to do, but at the same time, I don't feel like you need to cram 25 cards with the energy symbol on it into Captain Marvel's deck to make her great. If you want to lean into her basic attack of 2, you can use Combat Training, your hero gets +1 attack, or Fluid Motion. After you play an attack event, exhaust this card, your hero gets +1 attack. With Captain Marvel and how much she draws cards, you're going to be playing, if you want, 2 to 3 attack events a turn. So there's no reason to not lean into Fluid Motion and Combat Training and get your base attack really, really high. Valkyrie, after she enters play, deals 2 damage to a minion, or 3 if you paid with an energy resource, and obviously energy resource attack events, really, really good with Captain Marvel. Justice cards. So she can afford really expensive cards like Beat Cop and Sonic Rifle. Those are going to help her flip more often and use her commander ability. Again, we've got a little bit of aerial synergy, and I think Captain Marvel is one of the best cards to run the shield package with. We'll talk about that when we get to the basic cards, but basically running Monica Chang and spamming her as much as possible to get a ton of surveillance teams on the board can be really, really strong with Captain Marvel. Leadership. All right, she is one of the best characters to get a really wide board with leadership using Avengers Tower and Triskelion, and then use strength and numbers to just cycle a ton of cards into your hand, play all your Captain Marvel cards, and win the game. She works really well with Avengers Assemble and Mighty Avengers if you can get a ton of them down. They both have energy resources, so you can pump both Carol's attack and all those allies that you flooded the board with and just end the game, which can be really, 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 really strong. All right. In protection, we've got Med Team. Again, she's got that 3 resource card. She can afford things that most characters can't. Another card that I think she works really well with is Stand Together, where you have to exhaust an Avengers and Guardians character to prevent all damage from an attack, and then deal that damage back to the character that was attacking you. She can afford to do this quite frequently because of those 3 resource cards. So if you can get some Guardians allies in there, she can work really well with them. Nova obviously just thrives off energy resources, so cards like that. I think as far as things that help her shore up her weaknesses go, if you're playing in solo, Subdue could be really strong because you don't have to use your defense stat to still mitigate some damage coming in at Carol. So you can still use your Tooth Wart, which is really strong for a protection player, while still reducing damage that's incoming. Again, similar solution with Jump Flip, where you prevent 2 of the damage and remove 2 threat from the main scheme, basically killing 2 birds with 1 Captain Marvel-sized stone. All right, so basics. Again, we have basically unlimited money as Captain Marvel. So Agent 13 can be really good with her. After Agent 13 attacks or thwarts, choose a shield support and ready that support. So you can now use Alpha Flight Station twice in a turn. So if you're an alter ego, we have 6 cards in hand. You draw to 7 with Commander. You discard 1 and draw 2 with Alpha Flight Station. So you've seen 9 cards in your deck. You do it again with Agent 13, and now you've seen 11 cards in your deck in 1 turn. That's just bonkers. Obviously, getting a second Avengers Mansion in addition to your Alter Ego ability is really strong, and things like Quinn Carrier to constantly give yourself that matching resource can be really, really good. I like to put Plan B in her deck because I find a lot of times I spend a ton of cards from my hand, and either I've already filled my energy channel and I have this wasted card in my hand, or I have this leftover card with nothing to do. So Plan B lets you throw it away and turn it into damage, which Carol definitely loves. As far as theme goes, Carol's been around basically forever in the Marvel Universe, since Marvel Superheroes #3 in 1967. She originally went by Carol, and then Ms. Marvel, and finally now by Captain Marvel. She has a storied career in the Air Force where she's constantly leading the charge and has a history of overloading and going binary with her energy absorption powers and just power overwhelming, Archon from StarCraft kind of character. So let's get right into our patented archery scale system before I linger on too long. So power level, I have Captain Marvel at a 5. She works well all the time. She is super strong. She is self-sufficient, and she is a really great character. Decision making, I have her at a 4. Since you're drawing so many cards, it might seem like, well, yeah, you just keep drawing more cards and doing great things. Oh, we hit our overtime today. We tried, folks. I have her at a 4 still, though, because I feel like as you're drawing more cards, your decisions become more and more important, and like really fine-tuned, really experienced Captain Marvel players can do amazing things with their turn. And when I say that, I mean people that aren't me, but people that have a lot more experience playing her can really turn the tides with her. Aspect viability, she's a 5. She has an awesome deck in every aspect, whether it's shield leaning with um, leadership and justice. She's got a leadership, Avengers Assemble deck. She's got a protection mitigation deck that's crazy, like a reflection deck with Nova and energy barriers. And she obviously works super well with aggression and dive bomb and hone technique. She is exploding with all the aspect cards that come out, and that's really remarkable that a character that came out in the core set is still someone we want to revisit as new aspects come out. Thematics. I think I might be being a little too harsh on these core set characters with thematics. They had to give us the basics before they could get to the really cool thematic ones. But as far as Captain Marvel goes, I get the binary feeling of being in overload and just pounding into the villain. But I don't necessarily get that feeling of how I'm running out of control as I'm in this binary state. I don't get a lot of feeling of her commander ability. I mean, her commander ability is great, don't get me wrong, but it's just a generic card draw ability. Nothing about it makes me feel like she's an Air Force commander. So I'm a little bit disappointed in theme. I think as we get to the characters that weren't just giving us, hey, here are the basic things you can do in this game, the theme gets a lot better. So hopefully characters, get a little bonus in theme if they came out later in the game. Fun factor, Carol's at a 4 for me. She's not my favorite character. I'm not super big on like the strongest characters in the game, other than Hawkeye. Obviously, he's like super strong and super awesome. But the rest of the characters that are really strong, they're just not as fun for me. I want a little bit of a challenge. I want a little bit of tension in my game, and sometimes Captain Marvel gives you that, but sometimes she's just a little bit too pushed for me. So if I take her total score, add it up, do an average, she gets a 4.0. So I would like to know from you, the audience, what you think in the comments. What is your favorite deck with Captain Marvel? What aspects does Captain Marvel pair best with? And what new cards are most exciting with Carol that you haven't tried out necessarily? Maybe Hone Technique, maybe something from Ironheart's pack, or something we've seen previewed in the upcoming packs. I would love to hear about it in the comments below, so definitely put it down there and I will respond, and we will have a great discussion about Captain Marvel. So we have one core set character to go through, Iron Man, and then we will be getting into the hero packs, so I'm super excited to see where the rest of these videos take us. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great day.